Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the 7 Sportscape. Tonight, we're hopping all around the sports world from visiting with Brad Galley as he gets settled in for a week of spring training down in Lakeland. It's Michigan State news. Nick Ward out for some time with a broken hand. How it happened and what it means for the Spartans as the season draws closer to its end. High school football season still a half year away, but one of the best kickoff events already gearing up for another campaign. Plus, all the highlights, sports sound bites, and much more you need to hear before you hit the bed. This is the 7 Sportscape. Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Justin Rose. A little bit of a different tweak to our format tonight. We're going to take you around the world of sports, and let's start right with the top story tonight. 3 weeks left in the regular season of college basketball, and every game is going to mean a lot, especially in the Big Ten. It's shaping up to be a classic race down to the finish. Both Michigan and Michigan State trying to keep pace with one another until their matchups next Sunday will know who won the first one and then the last game of the regular season. But the Spartans, while they stayed on pace, it did not come without a major cost to the game earlier today. Spartans hoping to walk away with a season sweep of Ohio State at the Breslin Center. Early on, things going well was the Buckeyes jumping out to a 9-point lead. Thanks to Caleb Wesson's strong start. Look at Nick Ward's hand there. That's the beginning of the second half. He did not play more than 3.5 minutes, so other people had to step up. First, Matt McQuaid hit a triple. Then Kyle Arns hit another one. So, you got to lean on some other guys. Thomas Kithier, you can't say enough about this young man and how much he's contributed in the minutes that he's been able to come in. So, Michigan State does pull away. Jack Hoiberg even gets away and pulls this one out. 62-44 is the final, but it's Michigan State beyond that with Nick Ward's injury. That's the real story here.
You did what you had to do. The 18-point win, that's unfair to Ohio State because they played their tail off, and that was a close game the whole way. But for my guys to figure out how you got to win different ways, it's not going to be pretty all the time. And defense not only travels, sometimes it works at home too. And this time it worked at home.
Now to that Ward injury. Major blast to the Spartans' long-term season goals. The Spartans announced that the junior forward sustained a hairline fracture in his left hand towards the end of the first half during the Spartans' 62-44 win over Ohio State today. There's no timetable for his return. He will be reevaluated on a weekly basis, and it's hoped for his return before the end of the season. That was what they told us in the initial release. Here's what my take on all this really means. An early exit to the season. I've been telling you all year long on this show that I don't think this team is going to go much further than its stars can take them. Josh Langford, he's been basically gone all season. Cassius Winston, he's playing at an All-American level, but today he admitted for the first time he was tired. And then this started to feel like the season was starting to wear on him. And Ward, well, he may not return anytime soon, especially before he needs to get into game shape again to get back into the mix. A broken bone in his shooting hand, that could hamper his ability to pretty much do everything at a high level, and there's nothing you can do about that type of injury but time. Believe me, I broke my left hand 2 years ago, and while I'm not a college basketball player, it still doesn't feel the same when I continue to do things. This is a major blow to the Spartans' cost. But we'll take a look at that remaining schedule, and we'll talk about it from there. They have an opportunity. Basically, obviously, Ward is likely going to be out on Wednesday against Rutgers. But then that first matchup with Michigan at Michigan next Sunday. They go to Indiana a couple days later, home against Nebraska, and wrap things up against Michigan at the Breslin Center in 2 Sundays from today. The Big Ten tournament, it's a week later in Chicago. Then after that, you find out your March Madness fate. So we're talking about it from this type of timeline. At least 3 weeks, which means he is out for the rest of the regular season and probably the Big Ten tournament as well. How the Spartans will fare without their junior big man and probably their best interior scorer and defensive presence remains to be seen. He's been in and out of consistency all season long, but this is definitely going to be something that the Spartans are going to have to evaluate as they move forward. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Tigers now. 98-game losers last year, minimal star power. So you have to ask questions about who and what is going to show up. Brad Galley in Lakeland tonight. And the first question I have for you, Brad, is Miguel Cabrera. He can be a Triple Crown winner or a guy that's been inconsistent with injuries. What kind of Miggy are we going to see in 2019?
Yeah, how Miguel Cabrera bounces back from his ruptured bicep tendon is the Tigers' biggest question this season, and I think across baseball it's one of the biggest questions in the entire game. And I know that we all know this Tigers team isn't going to do anything, but Cabrera's a generational talent, a guy that everybody said when this last Hall of Fame class came out, Miguel Cabrera will be there someday. But he's got 5 years and $154 million left on his contract. He's not going to Cooperstown anytime soon. He's going to be with this Tigers team for a long time. And as they take strides and start to really kind of take away pieces and look towards the future, he's a guy that's got to help usher in the next era like he started when he was acquired from the Marlins. Consider this, though. 3 of the last 4 seasons, he has not reached 500 at-bats. The only other time that's met that number in his career, his rookie season in Miami. Production has been the name of the game for Miguel Cabrera. Staying healthy has been his Achilles heel in Detroit the past couple seasons.
Now, of course, Brad, every single opening day roster is not what the roster looks like even halfway through the season, but could there be some potential movement even earlier on from that? Obviously, Nick Castellanos has dominated the headlines so far this offseason.
Short answer right now, nobody. Nick Castellanos was the name that's been floated out publicly by Al Avila. It almost seems like he knows teams don't want to acquire outfielders. I mean, you see the movement in baseball this year. Frozen as ever. Last year was an indictment on what this system is. It seems like the next CBA is going to be a really big stalemate between the Players Association and the owners. But to answer the question, really, who the Tigers can trade, Castellanos is the big piece who reported to Tigers camp today and said his agent saying that he wanted to have his client dealt before camp begins. Those are his words. He's just here trying to be a winning ball player. Michael Fulmer is another piece to this puzzle that we thought for the last couple years could have gone somewhere. The former Rookie of the Year and All-Star pitcher has really been a shell of himself. An ERA last year that exceeded his career low. What we saw to Michael Fulmer his first couple years is something he hopes to dial back in and get back this year. He's been down in Lakeland working out with the staff and working out, just trying to get his body right and getting his body consistent and getting that throwing motion down for months. If Fulmer can regain some of that form, I would not be surprised if Al Avila tries to move him early on in this season. But they went out and tried to get some more pieces. Tyson Ross, Matt Moore, a couple of arms that are kind of seen as some bounce-back guys. Again, the production not there from them the last couple of seasons for each pitcher. Injuries getting in the way, slowing down what looked like some positive signs early in their career. If they can regain any of their form and maybe a contender down the road this season is looking to add an arm, you're looking at maybe a piece or two down the road at the trade deadline. But really what you see is what you get with this Tigers team. There are no big pieces that people are going to jump out and try to grab and then hand a bunch of prospects. The Tigers are going to have to build from within, and they're going to have to build through the draft.
But fans are going to be fans and want to know what the expectations are for this 2019 Tigers team. What can we realistically expect from a group that's probably in the midst of a rebuild?
We know what a party opening day is in Detroit, right? It's one of the biggest holidays really in our city unofficially. People are going to show up year in and year out for this Tiger baseball team. But what's so interesting, they know they're not going to win. And even with that hope last year during the Rally Goose time in May when things were looking good and it was kind of a party at Comerica Park, in the back of your head, the forefront of your mind, winning wasn't going to be an option down the road. And Al Avila said it himself this offseason. Don't look for big spending from this club until 2021 or 2022. There's a sign on the Tigers clubhouse door. Anthony Fennick wrote this week from the Free Press, said it's the Commissioner's Trophy handed to the World Series champion. Believe that you can win this. Believe this can be us, or don't walk through these doors. Tigers aren't going to win a World Series this year. I think point blank that's pretty obvious. But as they try to instill a winning attitude and a culture around this next era, as most of the stars are gone, that's the type of attitude they're trying to instill. And Matt Boyd told me as he stopped by our studios this year on the Winter Caravan, we believe we can win. And bottom line, when I talked with him, he's got a family to feed. He's got a wife to try to provide for and a baby to try to provide for. And I know it sounds silly because the contracts are so big in comparison to what you and I make each and every day, what everyone else makes in this city. But these guys are trying to make a name for themselves as ball players. And so even as Castellanos reported today and trade talks are imminent with him, apparently, or maybe he's not going anywhere, he still has to be a ball player each and every day. So these guys are going to go out and try to make names for themselves the way Jacoby Jones got hot last year at certain points, the way Jamer Candelario tried to bounce out of cold streaks last season, and the way we saw a guy again in Boyd who really made some strides last year. I think that sign speaks wonders and volumes to the culture they're trying to establish here. The problem is those winning ways and the actuality of that trophy aren't coming anywhere soon. It's going to be fun. We're going to be down here all week providing coverage. Look forward to bringing you some throughout the week. Every platform you can find us, on the air, on TV. Send it back to you.
All right, Brad, thanks so much. Looking forward to that stuff all week. The Pistons lone all-star representative Blake Griffin given a nice ovation in Charlotte. He was introduced as part of Team Giannis today. It's my yearly opportunity to tell you that the highlights from the NBA All-Star Game are just silly. Let's take a look at those right now. Blake Griffin, of course, showing his hops of Blake Griffin of old on an alley-oop here. Okay, all right, that's not bad. The play of the night, though, certainly has to go to Steph Curry's oop pass to Giannis himself. The high bounce and the even higher dunk. Obviously, when you're getting some of the best athletes out of their seats in the world to take a look at this one and applaud that one. Yeah, it was 95-82 at the half. Team LeBron ended up winning it by some ridiculous score in the 170-somethings to 160-somethings. So, you know, it's the All-Star game, so it is exactly what you get. No defense. The Red Wings have exactly 22 games left this season. Trade deadline a week from tomorrow, so how they fare in the upcoming games is going to have a lot to do with what they have on their roster. Who's traded, who's called up, and what do they hope to accomplish with the little time of the season left? Second game of a home-and-home with the Flyers tonight at Little Caesars Arena. Oscar Lindblom got the scoring started after banging this one home while out front. The Red Wings would get an equalizer, though, in the second period. Darren Helm camped out in front, finds a rebound, buries it home, ties it up, had a goal apiece. But the Flyers controlled the play for much of this game, broke through in the third. Ivan Provorov blasts this one through. The Flyers add an empty netter, sweep the back-to-back, beating the Red Wings 3-1. Earlier today was a doubleheader at Little Caesars Arena. The first game, the finale of the U.S.-Canada Women's Hockey Rivalry Series. Canada striking early in this one. Brianne Jenner scores on the power play, makes it 1-0. Same score in the second. Nice pass out front, though, to Blair Turnbull. Yeah, look at that. That's beautiful. Slips it past Alex Rigsby. That's all the offense both teams would have. Canada beats the United States 2-0, winning the rivalry series 2-1.
It was incredible. You know, this is a great host spot for us to be able to play Canada or anybody. So we couldn't be more thankful to the Red Wings and the NHL to help us out.
The turnout was great, and I think if it continues to pop on the calendar, we're going to get even more people out next year. So successful rivalry series in terms of increasing the visibility of the sport for sure.
Little over 8,000 tickets sold. Good for you guys to get out and support. Daytona 500 running to kick off the NASCAR season and wouldn't be racing until there's a crash that ruins a bunch of people's day. Happened at 10 laps to go, as it usually does. Paul Menard and Matt DiBenedetto, there we go, started that mess, caused a whole lot of other nonsense that would have to be sorted out, but down the stretch it was Denny Hamlin, able to avoid any more issues, claims his second Daytona 500 win in the last 4 years. Now that's that. Let's talk about a little bit of the future. Their golf game, how's it looking? Need a little help? We'll get you there. But coming up next, the Prep Kickoff Classic is back. 15th season. Two of the head coaches who've played in it before, they're going to be coaching in it again. We'll get to that and your tweets using the hashtag 7sportscape coming up in a little bit. Stay with us here.